We felt that something strange was happening. We immediately approached the ship. We were shocked by what we saw. It was impossible for such a thing to exist. According to the theory, everything began with Albert Einstein's crazy ideas. Einstein was working on the unified field theory, and one version of this theory suggested that with a massive electric generator and a stabilized flow of energy fixed at certain angles, light could be bent around an object, making it completely invisible. The United States saw this as an opportunity and provided Einstein with every resource to succeed. Allegedly, Nikola Tesla was chosen to assist him in this experiment. Together, the two mad geniuses might have been on the verge of performing a miracle. At that time, the US was preparing to enter World War I. They wanted to transport supplies and protect their allies across the Atlantic Ocean. But for them, the Atlantic was like hell itself. German U-boats, submarines, were sinking nearly 2 ships a day along with their crews. In addition to this, secret experiments carried out by the Germans became a great mystery, and rumors spread from country to country. Following these reports, the US military also began dozens of experiments in the now famous Area 51 in an attempt to gain the upper hand in the war. All of these experiments were grouped under the name Project Rainbow. The simple aim of the project was to be one step ahead of enemy nations. For instance, in one of those experiments, they created ghost planes. These incredible aircraft could not be detected by radar, giving the US significant advantages in the war. But according to theory, there was another experiment, far more unbelievable, and with catastrophic results. Its name was the Philadelphia Experiment. Allegedly conducted on October 28, 1943, it was a military experiment intended to render naval ships invisible, much like the ghost planes. The US Navy wanted its destroyers to be undetectable to enemy radar, gaining superiority at sea as well as on land during World War I. Moreover, they were not only aiming for invisibility, but also teleportation, moving a ship from one place to another instantly. But unlike the ghost planes, this was far more distant and nearly impossible. What pushed them to attempt it was the claim that Einstein himself had already experimented with teleportation based on his unified field theory. He had worked on this since 1925, publishing several studies in physics journals. Whether he succeeded, we don't know, but one person claimed to believe he had. The man who revealed this experiment to the world was Morris Jessup, a writer and researcher with a master's degree in astronomy who often wrote about UFOs. In 1950, Jessup received 2 letters from Carlos Miguel, a retired sailor. In the letters, Carlos claimed to have witnessed a Navy ship teleporting into another dimension. He also said that the US military used Einstein's research to teleport a destroyer. Preparations for the experiment were completed, and the trial was set to begin. According to the project, ships would appear at any chosen location without being detected by enemy radar. The scientific term for this was optical invisibility. The ship chosen for the experiment was USS Eldridge, a DE-173 class destroyer escort with 104 crew members. According to an eyewitness, 2 75-kilowatt generators were mounted beneath the ship's forward gun turrets. From there, 4 magnetic rays would be emitted across the deck, surrounding the ship with distorted rays and radio waves. The result: invisibility to enemy observers. USS Eldridge was stationed near the Philadelphia Naval Shipyard when the experiment began. On June 22, 1943, at 9 a.m., the generators were powered on. A magnetic field began to form. Soon, a greenish fog enveloped the ship, and then USS Eldridge completely vanished from sight. For a moment, only the anchor chain was visible. Then even that disappeared. The sea before us was empty. The high-ranking officers and scientists on board our ship watched in terror, disbelief, and awe as the destroyer and its crew vanished, both from radar and from sight. Everything was going exactly as planned. 15 minutes later, an order was given to shut down the generators. At first, nothing happened. Then, the green mist reappeared. USS Eldridge slowly returned, but something was horribly wrong. The ship had reportedly teleported 640 kilometers away to the Norfolk Naval Base, before returning 15 minutes later, but nothing was the same. Some crew members were fused into the metal hull of the ship. Others never returned at all. It was an unbelievable, horrifying sight. Although the experiment seemed successful, the disastrous consequences caused it to be terminated. Allegedly, many famous names had been involved. We already mentioned Albert Einstein. Others included Dr. John von Neumann and Nikola Tesla. But after the disastrous results, none of them admitted responsibility, and all refused to continue. About 12 years later, in 1955, Carlos Miguel sent another letter to Dr. Morris Jessup. This time, he provided even more details of the event. He even wrote that hypnosis, truth serums, or any other scientific method could be used on him to prove he was telling the truth. 9 years later, in April 1959, Jessup called his friend friend, Dr. Mason Valentine, saying he had reached definitive conclusions about the experiment and asking to meet the next day. They planned to have dinner on April 20th, but that dinner never happened. That night, Dr. Jessup was found dead in his car in a Miami park. According to the police report, he had committed suicide by carbon monoxide poisoning, but his notes had disappeared. This mysterious death cast doubt on the entire story. After Jessup's death, Dr. Valentine stated in an interview, "I don't believe the Philadelphia experiment can be explained by conventional means. Some scientists believe the basic structure of the atom is not made of matter particles, but of electromagnetic fields. Manipulating these complex energy fields under extraordinary magnetic conditions could alter both the physical and existential state of matter. This could also distort the time factor, which is part of the dimensional fabric we live in. In short, this experiment might be possible." At this point, some questions may come to mind. For example, why wasn't the experiment conducted on a smaller ship first? Of course, we can't be sure it wasn't. Perhaps smaller, unmanned objects were tested earlier, but the teleportation of USS Eldridge was supposedly the final stage, which ended in failure and was shelved. As for why the US never admitted to such a failure, there are many reasons. The risk of losing the trust of other nations, the difficulty of explaining the deaths of the crew to their families, the political and military consequences of admitting such a massive failure. No nation would take such risks. And yet, apart from eyewitness accounts, there is no document confirming that this experiment ever took place. The Naval Historical Archives deny any record of such events or achievements by the Navy. The truth remains unknown, even after 80 years. Claims exist, but no concrete evidence. A mysterious death, strange letters, and haunting testimonies keep suspicion alive. Perhaps one day, a top-secret file will finally be opened, and the darkness will be illuminated. I am Onyx. See you in the next mystery.